Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. So on today's video we are going to be making this beautiful inbuilt corset with a zipper on top. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, let's get right into the video. So this is my pattern. I already ruled out my shoulder line, my bust point, my under bust, my half length, and the full length. So we are just going to start imputing our measurements now. So from the shoulder line, I'm just going to mark out where I want my yoke to start from. So I had to mark out 8 inches. So I'm just going to roll that out. So I'm going to use 8 inches, and this was actually at the end of the day a bit deep. So if you're going to do yours, you can try making use of 7 instead of 8 inch, but it still came out nice too. So here I'm just marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and that is 7.5, and I came down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope, and I marked out my armhole. I still made use of 7.5, and I just ruled that down to form our armhole curve. So I'm just going to curve out the armhole using my pattern master. So I just curve this out. You can see what it looks like right now. So guys, this is now going to be the new line you are going to be working with. So next I'm just going to mark out my bust span measurement divided by 2, and that is 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark 3.5 inches from the top to the bottom and rule a line. So you can see that my front pattern is really long, and that's because we are going to be having like a curved basque, and you're going to see that in the sewing part of this video. So I'm just going to rule that out. So the length I made use of was 25 inches because of the basque I'm going to be having at the front, but the back is not going to be as long as the front. So from this point here, I just went in by ½ inch on the inside, and from this other point I came out by 1 inch. So I'm just going to rule that line to meet with my bust point. So that's what I'm doing right now. So you can see that I just ruled this out to meet my bust point line. Next, from my under bust line, I'm just going to be taking out 1 inch on both sides. So you're going to see me marking 1 inch on the inside and 1 inch on the outside. I'm just going to take that 2 inches I marked out and mark it at the bottom part and just rule a line so they meet each other. So I'm just going to rule out the line now. Next, I'm just going to curve out our bust points just to create that shape. So I'm curving out from the bust point down to the under bust, and you can see that the shape of our bustier is already coming out. So I'm just going to rule this out. So this is what we have right now. Next, I'm going to start inputting the measurement, but before that, I'm just going to go in with my pen to just curve out this the bust point area, because we do not want any sharp edges. So I'm just curving that out, and when I'm done with that, I'm just going to start putting in my measurements divided by 4. So I'm just putting in my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 8.75, and I'm doing the same thing for my under bust, my waist, and my hip measurements, because like I said, the length for the front is 25 inches. So for the full length area, I'm making use of my hip measurement divided by 4. So I'm just going to mark that out. So this is what it's looking like. So next, we are just going to return the 2 inch we took here. We are going to return it back so our measurements are going to match. So we are just returning that 2 inch we took out from the bust dart. So I just returned it, and this is what we have. So I'm just going to rule this line to meet each other. So since this is going to be an inner corset with a zipper on top, you want to snatch your waist. You want to make sure your waist is snatched. If you're not snatching your waist, there's no need to add an inner corset with a zip on top. So we are going to be taking out ½ inch on both sides, making it 1 inch at the front, 1 inch at the back, that we are going to be taking out. So we are going to be able to snatch our waist. So from our waist point, which is our half length there, I'm going to take out ½ inch. So when I take out ½ inch from this point, it's going to reflect at each side. So we are taking out 1 inch from the front and 1 inch from the back from our original measurement, so we can be able to snatch our waist and add in our inbuilt corset. So I just took out 1/2 inch and I'm taking back the measurements. So I'm just ruling a new line, as you can see. So this is going to be our new point here. So I'm just ruling this down to meet with our initial measurements. So this is what we have. So I'm just going to cancel out our old lines because we do not need it anymore. This is the one we are going to be working with now. So this is what we have right now. I'm going to go ahead to mark out our yoke part. So I'm just going to mark our neckline, and I'm just taking 3 by 3. So 3 inch for the length and 3 inch for the width. I hope you understand. So I'm going to just rule that out. I'm just going to rule the lines to meet each other. After that, I'm going to rule a line from that point to where we slanted by 1 inch. So I just rule this to meet each other. Next, I'm just going to mark out our neckline, and for this one, our neckline is going to be a bit different from the usual neckline because we are going to be adding our yoke differently. So I'm just going to mark from this armhole part where I want my skin net to start from, and I just went ahead to mark 4 inches here. So I made it 4 inches, but I decided to change my mind and make it 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark 3.5 inches there. So I'm just going to rule this line to meet with that 8 inches where we ruled out initially for our yoke. But you can see that I'm going 1/2 inch below the 8 inch line we marked. So this is what we have, and it's totally fine by me. So this is what I'm going to be working with. So I just took an A4 paper. You can use any paper that is translucent where you can see your patterns, to just trace out the yoke. So I'm just going to trace out what I see on the yoke. You can see the lines already. So I'm just going to trace this out and keep at the sides. So we are going to use this as our yoke pattern because we are still going to destroy the pattern. So you do not want to miss this step, so you don't have to redraft your yoke using another method. So this is just what I do. So this is what it's looking like. This is now what we have. We set our yoke aside, and now I'm just going to slit this pattern open. So I'm going to slit it from this point you're seeing me cut here. So I'm just going to cut it and end it at the bust point. And now I'm just going to hold it from that 1/2 inch to meet with the 1 inch we took out. And you can tape this down. You can actually tape this down, but my tape was not here with me in school. So I just decided to just use my initiative, and I just folded this and laid it down. So we are just going to rule our line again. So our measurements, when we join our bust, our bustier together, everything is aligning properly. So you can see that I'm re-ruling that line I ruled out earlier. So this is what it's looking like. This is what we are going to have. So this is what it looks like. So we are no longer going to make use of the initial line we had there. So this is the new line we are going to be working with, as you can see. So next, I'm going to return the 1.5 we took out at this top point here. You can see that we took out 1.5. So I'm just going to return it to the armhole part. So our measurements are going to align back properly. So I'm just returning the 1.5 inches, as you can see. I'm just going to mark that out and rule it out. And we've returned our 1.5 inches. So now our measurements are equal. Everything is equal now. So I'm just going to rule this out and create a curve there. So this is what it's looking like. So when we close this part here, you can see that our line there, everything is looking equal, and this is how it's supposed to be. So we are going to move on to just cut everything out. So guys, don't forget to add your sewing allowance. So I'm just going to write it out there so I do not forget, because I did not add my 1.5 inch sewing allowance. I just added it there so I do not forget when I'm cutting my pattern on my fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out this pattern. So guys, if you have any questions or you do not understand anything we are doing here, do not hesitate to ask your questions in the comment section below. So this is what our pattern is looking like, and you can see that when you join them together, what you're supposed to have at that top part, the yoke area, is looking okay. So now I'm just going to label them. As a beginner, you need to label your pattern so you do not get confused about what you're doing. So I'm just going to label everything and cut out the remaining parts of the yoke. After this, we're going to go ahead to cut out our back piece. So guys, for the back, I just went ahead to rule out everything, and I went ahead to add 1.5 inch zipper allowance. And the difference between the back and the front is the length. The length for the back, I'm working with 18 inches, and the one for the front is 25 inches. So I just went ahead to take my yoke for the front, and I just marked where we had 3.5 inches, and I ruled this all the way like this, because this is the shape I wanted for the back. So I just used my pattern master to rule it out the way I wanted it to be. So this is what it's looking like. Next, I'm going to mark out my bust span measurement for my dart at the back. So I'm just going to mark 3.5 all the way down, and this is going to be a straight dart. So I'm just going to mark this and rule a line, and we're just going to be slitting this line open. So I'm just going to be rolling the line now. After that, I'm going to go ahead to start imputing my body measurements the way we did for the front. So we are going to add the bust point measurements, the under bust measurements, and the waist measurements. Here we are not going to be adding our hip measurements because this is not the front pattern where we have a length of 25 inches. So now I'm just marking my bust measurement divided by 4, my under bust measurement divided by 4, and my waist measurement divided by 4. So after marking that, I'm just going to rule a line so you see what it's looking like very clearly. So next, I'm just going to eliminate any harsh lines and just create curves there. Next, we are going to take out our 1/2 inch for the back part for the waist. So this is going to be our waist. So we are just going to take out 1/2 inch because of the snatching, like I said earlier. So I'm just going to rule this out. So this is our new line, and we are not going to be working with this line again. So I'm just going to cross that out so you know that is not what we are working with. So this is what we have for the back part. You can see that this is very easy. So we are just going to add our allowance. I'm just writing that out so you do not forget. You can actually choose to add your sewing allowance here before you move on to cut it on your pattern paper. So I just did it this way. So this is what our back pattern is looking like right now. So guys, yeah, I was just trying to explain how to create the corset part we are going to be having at the inner part. But after doing this, I decided to just draft this in a separate paper so you understand better, and I just decided to just take this part out. So we are just going to be doing this part on a fresh piece of paper. So we are just going to label everything we did here, and after labeling this, we are just going to go ahead to cut everything out, and after that we are going to draft out our final pattern for the snatching effect we are going to be having at the inner part, the corset effect we are going to be having at the inner part of the dress. So now I'm just going to cut everything out from our new waistline measurement we marked out. I'm just going to cut everything out, and you can see that I did not cut the zipper part up towards the yoke area because we do not need that part. So this is what it's going to be looking like. I went ahead to rewrite the zipper allowance so I know that that part is for the zipper allowance. So I'm just going to slit open our dart area. So I'm just going to cut that open, and next we're just going to go ahead to draft out our last pattern. So before we draft the inner corset part, I'm going to show you how to cut your skirt part at the waist area. So this is the skirt part. I already drafted it out and I already added my 1.5-inch sewing allowance, but because we are taking out ½ inch at the top, it's going to also affect the bottom measurement. So I just marked out ½ inch and I'm going to re-rule the line so that we can have our new waist measurement, because we just took out ½ inch. And sorry guys, my camera went off, but I just took out the ½ inch, as you can see, and I cut it out. After cutting this out, all you have to do is join your skirt area the way you would normally join your skirt area. You can see that I already took out the ½ inch and I already cut it out. So you're just going to cut everything out and join your skirt the way you would normally do the skirt part of your dress. So this is what it's looking like. So for the inner corset part, we actually just did everything we did at the back. The only difference is, as I said, the length, and there's no yoke here. You can see that from the half length, you can see when I placed our initial one, everything, the line is meeting, but from the half length I went ahead to add an extra 4-inch at the bottom part. You can see from the half length area I added 3.5 inch. Sorry guys, 3.5 inches is what I added at the bottom part. So I went ahead to go down by 3.5 inches. You can choose to make yours 4 inches added to your measurement, so this will help with your snatching. So this is what it's looking like. So I'm going to take our initial back piece and I'm just going to mark out. I'm going to take go down by 1 inch from that point and I'm going to mark it out. I went down from my armhole area by 1 inch and I'm just going to place this equally on the pattern we are working with right now. And you can see that all I have to do is just to come up by 1 inch from what we have there. I just came up by 1 inch, so I'm just going to mark that out on the pattern. So make sure when you're doing yours, you're coming down by 1 inch from your armhole. So I'm just going to mark out that 1 inch and rule a line. So this is the length we are going to be working with for our back piece. So make sure you're coming down by 1 inch from your armhole measurement. So your snatching is going to start from 1 inch below your armhole. So this is the length we are going to be working with, as you can see. Next, I'm just going to be taking out 2 inches from this point here. I'm just going to be taking out 2 inches. This is going to help me snatch the waist on the inside before closing the zipper. So I'm just going to take out that 2 inch the way we would normally do when we are drafting our corset outside of our dress. So this is what everything is looking like. I'm just going to go ahead to cut everything out. So this is what we have, guys. I'm just going to go ahead to label this to know where the top part and the bottom part is. So next, I'm just going to cut everything out on my fabric. I'm just going to cut everything out of my fabric, and you can see on this part I actually added my 1.5-inch sewing allowance before cutting out the pattern, so I do not need to add my 1.5-inch sewing allowance again. So I'm just going to cut this out. So for this piece, I went ahead to cut out 4 pieces, 2 for the main fabric and 2 is going to serve as the lining piece. So I'm just cutting out 2 more pieces of this again, as you can see. So this is what we have after we're done. I just went ahead to notch the top again, just to make sure I know this is the top part. So this is the rest of the pattern. I went ahead to cut out each pattern and their lace, and I went ahead to just cut out the lining piece as well, and I iron stay on the lining piece and wording on the fabric piece. That is the doll face for the main fabric, and I added joining allowance, ½ inch joining allowance where needed. And you can see the add allowance part, I added 1.5 inches sewing allowance. So this is what everything is looking like. This is it for the pattern drafting part of the video. Stay tuned for the sewing part of the video where I show you how to sew this. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not yet subscribed, please do well to subscribe and join my YouTube family, and I will see you guys on the next tutorial. Bye guys.